Today is August 19th, 2023. Exactly 10 years ago today, my YouTube channel was created, and it became a place for many types of content. Over these 10 years, I have done vlogs, I have done gaming content, I've done music promotion, some mashups, some little mini mixes that I used to do with my friend, my own original music, of course, and as most of you might associate me with, the rankings. And today, I'm going to share with you what the channel has been through over the past decade. I will do my absolute best to keep things as coherent as possible. So I'm dividing up the video into little sections we're going to call eras. It'll just kind of take you through the years that stuff happened. We'll obviously be going from the beginning right up until now. With all that said, you might want to get a drink or something to eat. I don't know, maybe DoorDash something real quick, because we're probably going to be here a while. A couple of things before we start. For one, any mention of family members or friends from the past, for the most part, will be pretty brief. I hope you understand, so please don't ask any further information on certain people in the video. Also, before we get started, and I hate doing this, but it would really mean the world to me if you would subscribe, if you haven't already, because we're getting there. We're getting to that 1,000 mark pretty soon, and it also just motivates me to keep doing these videos. I don't normally ask for subs, but for this video it felt necessary. Yeah, without further ado, let's begin. Even though I had started the channel in 2013, my history and love for YouTube goes back a bit further than that. Can't exactly remember where it began, so let's just say around 2011-ish. Around that time I would have been in 4th grade, I think, at the wonderfully mature age of 10 years old. Gaming was not a new concept for me at the time. However, what was new to me at the time was the existence of YouTube. Well, in 2011 it was new to me. My first phone I ever had was the, hold on, give me a second. Oh yeah. Yeah, I think this was the one. The BlackBerry Curve 8900. This thing wasn't exactly the pinnacle of technology, even back then. So don't go in the comments saying I'm a big dum-dum for not knowing about YouTube until 2011. Anywho, it wasn't until later that year that I would receive my very first iPod. It was an iPod, and you'll never believe what was on it. Yes, this was the old YouTube logo on the app. It's better if you just think about the new one. Some of the earliest channels I can remember watching were people like Smosh, you know, when they were still on a small budget and weren't a huge studio, and Anthony still had his emo haircut. And I used to watch like in a bunch of Fine Brothers stuff, you know, before they tried to copyright the word react and everyone hated them for the rest of their career. I can't really recall many other gaming channels I watched back in the day during that period. Not even like the big ones like PewDiePie or Jacksepticeye. Here's something funny. While researching this video, it blew my mind to discover that Markiplier didn't even start his channel until 2012. 2012. I'm sorry, I just wanted to get that out there in case anyone needed a reality check. It wasn't until 2013 though, that even if I wasn't really experienced in videography or filmmaking, aside from like iMovie skits I used to make with my neighborhood friends during that time, I thought it'd be pretty cool to start making my own videos. And I did for a while, not on YouTube. I asked my mom and her boyfriend at the time if I could possibly, maybe, sorta, kinda, hopefully make my first YouTube account, and to my surprise they said yes. So from there I created my own Google account, technically speaking, and came up with my own email and all that jazz. And just like that, on August 19th, 2013, the channel was born. And I had no idea what to name it. I can't for the life of me remember what my very first channel name was, but I'm pretty sure it had my name in it in some capacity. While this was an exciting new endeavor that I wanted to do, I didn't really know where to start. I uploaded very random, very dumb, very stupid videos, mostly centered around me and my friends at the time. I think I remember the very first video I ever uploaded to YouTube was just me leaving school for the day. And it was like a minute long, and that was it. I know, what a banger way to start the channel. Some other videos off the top of my head I can remember were just like random iMovie projects. I remember the very first year of the channel I was centered around like Injustice Gods Among Us. You know the game? Yeah, I loved that game at the time, so I just posted a bunch of fucking videos on it. At the time, I had no idea it was made by the same people who made this. And this doesn't mean I began uploading gaming videos at the time, that comes a bit later down the line. To add on top of that, I was still figuring out a name for the channel since it still had my actual name in it, and I didn't want that anymore. If I remembered what name I had during that first year of YouTube, I would say it, but I really don't, unfortunately. And that would essentially be the essence of what the channel was built on. Only later did I discover a channel that would finally give me some sort of direction that I thought was perfect for me and what I wanted to do. And for some reason I never really thought about it up until that point in time. So now the big question was, what if I made my own gaming videos? So, what was this channel that I discovered, you asked? Who was the person responsible for essentially creating the basis of my content creation at the time in my life? You could say that the Gaming Lemon was a huge part of the inspiration for gaming videos.
No, it's been a while, man. It's been a long time. You know, give me a hug. Give me a big old hug, Joe. Go on, give me a hug. Give me a hug.
I used to watch him a lot. He was awesome. Shout out to him. I mean, that's technically where my introduction to Monster Cat would have been, since he did use a lot of insane likes bad pitched in his outros. However, let's take a short detour to the one and only Vanoss Gaming. Wait, hold on. That's better. Yes, this was the true original inspiration for what would later become my gaming channel that ran for about 2 years straight-ish. But we'll go in depth on that in a moment. What made Vanoss stand out to me amongst the many other gaming channels at the time was that he almost always had a consistent cast of friends join him in his videos, which pretty much always resulted in either some of the funniest gaming clips I've ever seen.
1, 2, 3!
Or some of the most chaotic gaming clips I've ever seen.
Oh my god, I'm lagging! Yes! Keep going! Keep her going! Oh, what the fuck?
Oh crap!
Holy shit! Oh my god!
There was no real telling with these guys. And speaking of which, this of course means that the rest of the friends also had their own impact in some way, and they would later be known as the Vanoss Gaming Crew. And the ones I remember the most right from memory were Vanoss, of course, H2O Delirious, I Am Wildcat, Basically I Do Work, Nogla, Moose Knuckle, Terrorizer, Louis Caliber. The way Vanoss's videos were edited and stylized with constant music in the background and constant entertainment value, I guess it just inspired me to kind of do the same thing, but my way. So with me, my closest friend at the time, GlackAZ, and another really good friend of mine at the time, Zopek Clutch, we became our own little gaming trio that would go on to play games together pretty much all the time. Then, and only then, did I come up with the name, the Video Randomizer Gaming. And of course later down the line it was shortened to simply TVR Gaming. From this point we would spend a lot of our time just playing games, the more prominent of which was like GTA 5. And just for you guys, I even have a little surprise for you, in the form of a video from 2014 where we played a version of the Maze Manhunt game mode that we totally didn't take from one of the Vanoss videos. Anyways, here's a clip and you let me know if there's someone in there that sounds familiar.
TVR, hey TVR, hey TVR, hey TVR, hey TVR! Oh, no! TVR! No! Okay!
Yep, that's yours truly. So for those of you who are sitting and wondering, when's he gonna talk about his current stuff? Or, when's he gonna talk about his music? Well, it basically started around this time in somewhere in October, I think, when I actually had a gum infection. inside my right jaw, 2014 still, which prevented me from fully closing my mouth all the way. It would just kind of get stuck on the gum. So my mom took me to the local urgent care. On the way there, I stumbled across a video, and the exact title was Bracket Electro Bracket dash Pegboard Nerds dash Emergency Bracket Monster Cat Release Bracket. Yeah, that's how I read it in my head, and I had no idea what the hell it was. That song is what I consider to be my true introduction to Monster Cat, because from there on out, that is when I started really diving into their music, their releases. That was the song that pretty much began the trend of inserting Monster Cat songs into my gaming videos, which I did pretty much always. It not only helped me strengthen my ability to enjoy their music, but it also gave me another hobby outside of just video games. And when I started listening to them regularly, it was toward the end of, I think, Monster Cat 019. It was like somewhere around the end of there. So I didn't really know what a compilation was or what was happening. It felt a lot different, and most of that is probably due to how young I was and how impressionable I was and what life was sort of like back then. But yeah, 2015 was where my love for Monster Cat would truly start to grow, with these 5 compilations practically being the only forms of music I would listen to on a daily basis. It was also the year that I initially started working on my own music, but only under the name TVR at the time. Made a few songs I used on like GarageBand, used a little bit of the Novation Launchpad app for a good bit of it. Kind of fused the two together. A lot of my oldest work, mostly remixes and stuff, I uploaded to Splice. If you can end up finding them somehow, a good chunk of them are pretty bad. Don't say I didn't warn you. Eventually, in late 2015, I would go on to adopt the name Xorro with an X. And no, it wasn't inspired by Mask of Xorro or anything like that. I just liked the name, and I thought it sounded cool. That's literally the only reason why I picked it in the first place. There's no, like, hidden meaning behind it or anything. Though, later as the years rolled out, I did find the name sticking with me more and more. Now you might be wondering, well, what happened to the gaming group? Well, it's a bit of a complicated story, really. Unfortunately, due to new consoles coming out at the time, specifically the Xbox One, the PlayStation 4, Glock AZ actually switched to the PS5, and this was before the time of any real cross-platform gaming, so it was basically just me and Zopek. So eventually, around spring 2016, it got to the point where we just had different mindsets about gaming. To me, it always seemed like he always wanted to win at everything, while I just wanted to play for fun. So with that, the group completely fell apart, and it pretty much didn't exist anymore. So with nothing really left, I did a little bit of gaming content by myself for a while, and then I came up with the idea of creating a music promotion channel, where I would essentially promote the work of smaller artists and try to get their name out there. And you may ask, well, what was the super creative name of this channel? Xorro Promotions. Yeah, that was the actual name. Obviously inspired by Monster Cat came the visuals I would use for the channel, which were mostly just the bars, except they were turned upside down, and the name and the song title was on top of them. It was a little weird, I know, but it looked cool to me back then, so I started using it. And so I began asking for demo submissions from people who were looking to get their music promoted. I was surprised at how many people were willing to send their music. There were also some other artists that I was kind of shocked to see grow as much as they did. For instance, I knew Darby back when he was still sort of a beginner of his craft, and when I saw him release a song on Monster Cat with Mazel, I was so unbelievably happy for the guy. There's also Vital Mode, and if that sounds familiar to you, that's probably because he's appeared on Rushdown quite a few times, and even had a hand in the Rushdown remix of Disciples We Don't Play. Also pretty cool. There was also 360, who now has 2 collabs with Skybreak and Atura in the form of Pinwheel and Pinwheel 2. He's also released on a majority of Form's all-nighter comps, as well as Bitbird's Create Together Volume 3. And the reason I bring this all up is because it brings me a ton of joy to see a bunch of people I've worked with and have talked to in the past just skyrocket into these awesome releases with these big names and these big labels. And that's not me saying I was responsible for any of it, but rather just me showing the appreciation I got to know them before they ended up becoming more well-known names. So anyways, I did a bunch of that for some time, and then pretty much lasted between mid-2016 to late 2017. Good year and a half. That late 2017 was where I would kind of lose motivation for continuing forth with Xorro promotions. The submissions were decreasing, and it was just becoming less fun. That is also the only year, 2017, where I took a break from Monster Cat releases. But yeah, at the time I had been watching a bunch of ranking videos from like Red Hawk and a bunch of other names that I can't remember for the life of me that were still doing it at the time. And so that just felt like something I wanted to do. And with that, I announced that I would be done with Xorro promotions and moving on to a different form of content. And with that, I also brought back the TVR Gaming name to the channel as well, because the original plan was to do ranking content while also putting out gaming videos like I used to. Or so that was the original plan. It was only after a couple of months of the rebranding that I would drop the name gaming from the name, because it just didn't feel the same as it used to. So I stopped making gaming videos pretty much for good. And the name officially became TVR/Xorro. And ever since December of 2017, I would start ranking videos specifically on Monster Cat, as I didn't really listen to much else at the time, in terms of like other labels and other artists and stuff. And I started with their very first compilation, Monster Cat 01 Launch Week. 2018 also ended up being one of my favorite years of Monster Cat, in heavy competition with 2015, simply due to just how much good music there was back then. I mean, where do I even start? We had this, and this, and this, and this, and this, and this, and all of these. During the summer of 2018, I actually managed to get back in contact with Zopek Clutch, one of the people from my gaming group, and we both sort of apologized about our certain behaviors toward each other, and decided to play some Modern Warfare 3 together for a little bit. That was the first time I played a game with him in over 2 years, and he sounded significantly older than he did back in 2016. Unfortunately, despite our sort of reunion, we never really talked after that summer. Probably my fault, because I'm awful at communication, but it was still an experience that I haven't forgotten about. And don't worry, I'm pretty sure he's doing fine and well, so there's no need to worry about him as far as my knowledge goes. From there on out, I would just continue to pump out ranking videos on mostly Monster Cat stuff, but would also dabble in like off-label stuff. And during 2019, I started my first ever request ranking series, which would eventually lead into a few seasons of request rankings I hosted from last year up till earlier this year. That first version I did back in 2019 is now referred to as Request Rankings Preseason. That playlist is on my channel if you want to see some older rankings from yours truly that aren't really Monster Cat related at all. And that was also the same year I dropped my debut album, What If I Disappeared, and started to kind of take my music a little more seriously. From then on, my music would be put out on different streaming services, Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon, and many others. Fast forward to where I am today, I currently have over 700 subs on YouTube, nearly 1,000 videos on the channel, roughly between 50 to 100 monthly on Spotify, 4 studio albums, and a pretty big remix package under my belt. Last year was a pretty big year for me, starting with Bowtied Media hosting a listening party for my recently released Fantasy album, a video that I still have on repeat to this very day. His reaction to my Oh No Oh Boy EP from last year always brings the biggest smile on my face. This year was the first time in Xorro history that I ended up on not only 1, but 3 compilations, all thanks to the team over at Amflera. They're all wonderful people, and I couldn't be happier to be part of their official artist roster. I was also the first person to appear on Bowtied's podcast, The Undiscovered Artist, which he and I had a lot of fun doing, and it was a great time. Honestly, it's almost overwhelming to me the amount of love my work has been getting, even if the numbers don't really seem big to most people. They really matter to me, and I'm just thankful for every single person that watches and listens to this stuff. It's moments like these where I kind of think about what my life would have been like if certain things never even happened. If I had never been inspired by gaming videos to make my own, would I even make those videos at all? Or if I never even discovered Monster Cat back in 2014, how differently would I have viewed music? It's a topic that kind of comes to mind every now and then, and more often than not, I come to the same conclusion. None of that really matters now. All of that is in the past, and Despite how tempting it is to think about other outcomes, I'm just happy that I ended up here. This is a personal thank you to all of you who have stuck around for as long as you have. You all mean the world to me. But before I go, I do have one last surprise for you all, and if you've kept a keen eye out, you might have already seen it, but just in case. 2.5 years after its release, Built by Nature Deluxe is finally getting a release, and includes many of the songs from 2021's Built by Nature The Leftovers that I put out on YouTube, technically making it the biggest album I've ever put out at 23 songs total. Now, when's this coming out, you may ask? Well, how about right now? As you're watching this video, it has already been released through many streaming platforms, so find the one you use and stream Built by Nature Deluxe. It feels really good to get some of these deluxe songs properly out into the world, so I hope you all enjoy what it has to offer. With all of that finally said and done, it is unfortunately time for me to leave again. Back to work making this channel fun and entertaining, one step at a time, and I hope to see you there along the way.